Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Brookfield Select Board meeting for September 19th, 2024. Please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, announcements. This meeting is being recorded. Is anybody else recording beside the town? Okay, nobody else is recording besides the town. We've got signed warrants. Did you want to give a report on the signed warrants, or did you want to give a report on the signed warrants?
Sorry about that. I didn't realize you were talking to me at first.
We have two warrants. First one is fiscal year 25-06 for accounts payable, and that is in the amount of $261,381.77. The second warrant is FY 25-06 for payroll in the amount of $203,960.62.
Thanks for that. Okay, and it is actually 7:06, since it was so fortuitous that we opened at 7:05, so that means we can do the poll hearing. Are you here for the poll hearing, sir? I am, yes. Okay. Would you come on up and talk to us?
Good evening. My name is Lenny Martinez. I'm representing National Grid. I'm the designer that designed the pole set for 14 Rice Corner Road. We'd like to set a pole on in the town right-of-way so that we can feed the new residential home that's being built there.
Okay, did you bring plans with you today?
No, I was told that you would have them.
Yes, you have.
Oh, they're in there. They're in here? Oh, my bad. I apologize.
It's okay.
Sometimes the person coming and speaking is the one that brings us the plans. I apologize.
And that's okay.
Did you have a copy?
I do.
Okay, great. Okay, and so it looks like we've got, is this 3 copies or 3 discrete?
There are all three have to be signed, they're all the same.
Okay, all right. So the existing pole is the other side of the road, and then this is gonna be in the right-of-way on the northeast side of the road, correct?
Yes.
And then you're gonna have to supplemental anchor, it looks like right up to the property lines, or right up to the edge of the right-of-way?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that we would need to be concerned about with this particular approach?
Nope.
Is there anybody here that's got any objection to the pole being proposed? All right,
I make a motion to allow National Grid to set a pole. Is it pole number 56? Is that what we're?
56 tack 1 is the new pole. 56 is the pole that's already installed.
So 56-1 on 14 Rice Corner Road.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And where do we need to sign? Is that both of us then? Looks like there's like 4, so I guess they're assuming. All right, sir, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for helping with the town growing a little bit.
Of course.
Where does this need to go? Okay. And then next thing on the agenda is, 7:30, so we'll take this out of order. I don't think we need a motion for that, actually, because it was on there for 7:30. Do you have a third one there, Rich?
Did you? Oh, I didn't realize you threw it over.
Okay, sorry, my bad. All right, so we've got some appointments tonight. I guess CDBG is not gonna be here till 7:30. Is that, oh, is he? Okay, but that's a hearing, so we can't actually do it until 7:30. Why did we put it at 7:30?
That's when we decided to do it, because when we children enough time to get everything done, couldn't.
Okay,
Rich said he would sing and dance for us.
Yeah,
In case
yeah.
there's any interlude.
we could have been done in 10 minutes. Well, no, 15 if he's actually got quite a bit to speak about, so. Okay, so first thing would be on the appointments is we have an appointment for an interim highway superintendent of Lindsay Rockwell.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Lindsay Rockwell as our interim superintendent.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Actually, you're the one that signs these. Aye.
Point of order, Ms. Chairman?
Sure.
You can have a discussion?
So are we gonna have any discussion?
You can have a discussion.
So I guess we can have a discussion. Well, no, he's asking
So are
if he was
you
pointing.
asking for, that you want to be part of it?
I have a few questions, that's all.
Okay, well, we had a motion that was seconded and approved, right, completed, so we've completed the motion. If you, I'm willing to take 2 minutes of,
Yeah, I was gonna say with the public commentary period, it didn't necessarily.
we didn't
indicate-
ask that we were gonna do discussion, but sure, come on up.
You always usually say, before you make the vote, you usually say discussion, You didn't have any, you didn't say that tonight.
Usually if we second for discussion if we intend to have any discussion, but there's
Right.
an appointment slip. We don't always discuss every appointment, so,
Right.
okay, but,
So what's this, I think the people in the town of Brookfield need to know what you're doing here with this interim, Lindsay Rockwood. I think you should just explain a little bit what's going on at the highway department, and what's taking place, and
well, you're the, so how do we want to handle this? You're the select board liaison, you are our town administrator. Do you want to talk to it, or do you want to
I'll
talk to it?
speak briefly on it, and if we need any more questions, we'll send it around.
Okay,
So recently, we let the highway superintendent go, so we are currently without one. So we are, Lindsay's been there for approximately 4 years. She knows the inner workings inside and out, and we're gonna do something a little different than we've done in the past, and we're gonna give Lindsay a chance to run the highway department and see how she does. If she likes it, she'll continue. If she does a good job, we're gonna keep her there, is my perspective. And,
yeah, and I don't know if I'd go quite that far yet. I'd say, so here's where we're at, right? We had been communicating with the former highway superintendent that we weren't particularly pleased with the overall performance state of the roads within the town. There were some other concerns that were raised. One of the reasons why we put the highway advisory committee into place was to try to give some guidance, make sure that we had, let's just say more eyes on the situation, right? So that didn't work out. He's no longer with us. Since Lindsay is there and is the one that handles things like the time card, she's familiar with all of our regulations and such, rather than winding up with a period where we have no highway super and we have to go find an interim. This puts us in a position where somebody who's familiar with the Brookfield regulations is holding that interim role. I don't know that, I think there is some dialogue about whether that would be something that would be a permanent situation, because there are some like credentials that are somewhat lacking relative to Lindsay, but she's got a lot of good experience down at the highway department, so it's a temporary solution. And then we'll have to do things like decide when we're gonna do the posting for the full-fledged highway superintendent and determine like what our path is gonna be forward. But last time we didn't have a highway superintendent because of one leaving us on short notice. Things like driveway permits were a problem, things like some of just the day-to-day is a real issue when you don't have anybody in the seat. So fundamentally, we were looking for somebody who was down there already that would be able to provide that continuity of service, and Lindsay has said that she's willing to step up. And like Rich said, I think we have some high hopes that she's acquired the knowledge necessary to fulfill the role on a longer term, but right now, interim is interim. It's just like when, if the police chief goes out for 30 days because of something, that we would potentially, take the sergeant and make him an interim chief, just to make sure that there was an officially a chief in town. Same thing here, so. Mr.
Is it okay?
Yep.
How was the situation when Ryan left on short notice last? Did Lindsay fill in that work
So-
before the other gentleman came in, or was that?
So that time, we didn't actually appoint anyone interim until we got an official interim. So what happened was we posted 2 positions. We posted an interim, and then we posted the full-time superintendent. We eventually filled the interim with Mr. Gary Kelleher. During the period of time until we found an interim, it was a nightmare, okay? A lot of things didn't happen in town.
But was Lindsay was more or less sort of?
She was
managing
trying,
stuff?
she was trying to manage it, but without having the title. There are certain things you can't do
Right.
without the piece of paper that says that you're a highway superintendent.
Yeah, I mean, the
So-
only point I was trying to find out was whether she
She-
had some experience in managing stuff like that
Well,
before.
so she
maybe last
had
year.
last time she largely did the work without getting the title when we
Yeah.
lost our highway super. The other thing is while we had an interim highway superintendent, during one of our big snowstorms, actually, he was not available to run the event. And Lindsay was actually the one that stood up and ran the event. So a lot of the reason why we're asking her to step forward now is that she's had a proven track record of when on absolutely zero notice being able to function in a leadership role in that department.
Right, I mean, that's the
Yep.
point I was trying to get out, because obviously you talked about it, but again, as the head of the advisory committee, this is sort of
New,
fell
yep,
on us, and so we're all going, what the, and so
Yep.
the fact that she did have a little bit of experience last year, and this is, we'll just have to see how it goes, I guess.
yes,
All right, thank you.
yep.
How are we all set for, so we're gonna be down one individual for snow plowing, is that correct? Or is Lindsay gonna go out?
Depends on how you do the
Not,
math.
we're not necessarily down one based on last year. We have additional part-timers that do snow, but there's more full-timers down there now than there were last year,
Yeah,
so.
yep, you're 100% correct. We only had 2 full-timers last year. We have 3, three.
I'm going back a year ago when we had full staff, is what I'm going
Yeah,
back
but
on.
we have one more position authorized now, so one down now is the same as full staff was then. So in terms of straight head count number of full-time drivers, we have the same number of drivers. And Lindsay can run one of the 1-tons, doing some of the small stuff even now, so.
And furthermore,
It
Lindsay
has.
has actually already reached out to all the private contractors, and all have agreed that they are willing to
Available.
participate again.
Yeah.
Sorry, but again, one other question that's on my mind, how will the allocation of hours between the various functions that she was doing versus now, and then what's the compensation going to be, who's tracking that? And I assume we'll be saving money, but again, it's, the compensation for what she was doing before versus what a superintendent would make is like night and day, so
Yeah, so
there's some.
So there's
Have
gonna
we-
be a learning curve to it, right? So we're not positive how many hours. We haven't given her a specific
Right.
amount of time. But the one thing we are gonna do is keep it under 40 hours. I don't believe she wants to even exceed the 40-hour point. So it may not even get to the 32-hour point. Is that correct, Ron?
Correct, yeah, and to further complicate things, Lindsay is also our grant writer, so there's really a true
So-
hybrid blend.
So one of the things I'd like to see, and I know this has to go through Brad for the next agenda, okay? One of the things I would like to look into is can we find a reliable outsourced grant writer for an interim period of time? Because there's a lot of folks that specialize in that for small towns like ours. I know that when we had the grant writer position posted previously, several people approached us with that as a service, which would be a legitimate approach for us to gap fill that. But I'd like to get that on the agenda
Yeah,
for another time for us to discuss.
In fact, for the October 3rd agenda, I will be twisting Mr. Kadelski's arm to include the discussion regarding really Lindsay's compensation during this interim period, but also she has indicated she is ready, willing, and able to continue to be the grant writer, but I think that's a discussion the board should have, whether or not we want to go
And
there.
I think that's okay, but I think so I'd like to have the discussion, and I'd love to include Lindsay in it, I'd be more interested in having her identify the grants that she would like to see targeted, because she's familiar with the town, and then see if we can get one of the grant writing services to handle all of the minutia so that she's not distracted by that, right? Just from a standpoint, and we'll just have to tell her part of becoming a leader is deciding when to delegate, right? So she needs to take advantage of, if we're gonna offer a resource, okay, never turn down an opportunity to eat a meal or use the restroom, right? So let's at least include that. Let's have some conversations around that. Can we, my schedule is kind of crappy, but can we set up a personnel committee meeting? And we'll have to post it as, did they ever
Joint.
appoint me? Did we ever appoint me back onto the personnel? We talked about it, but I don't think we ever voted or signed a paper. So if I'm on there, we'd have to post
A
it as a
joint.
joint meeting. But let's see if we can figure out a time that we can schedule it and discuss as a personnel board what would be an appropriate compensation level to bring back. Or we can just put it on the agenda since, it would come back to the Board of
So I
Selectmen
think we
anyway.
also, before you can get to that point, is sitting with Lindsay to see what expectations did you go over any expectations with her for time frame or anything, Ron, when you?
No, Lindsay and I are going to be having weekly status meetings in which we're going to be talking about goals and objectives.
Yeah.
It's going to be a two-way conversation. But needless to say, one of the things I think in her best interest as well as best interest of the town is to finalize how we're going to handle compensation and the grant writing, just so she has clarity, the town has clarity,
Yeah.
and we have a clear path forward.
Yep.
This is my personal opinion, but given what I saw when we were going through the budget process last January and February, and again, I discussed it with you when you came in, she was at a different conception as far as hours and wages and compensation, and it got very ugly with some emails going back and forth. So I would hope now, with you being here and with everyone very interested in this situation, that, things are right from the start.
So I think if you give us a week or two to kind of get the bugs worked out on our end, then we'll have better answers for you moving forward, right? So,
Understood, but I don't know if it rose to that level, because between the advisory committee and I think, I can't remember the Gary, and we were very clear with him saying, you need to speak to her about what she's asking for, give her some reasons and expectations and all of that. And it never happened. When I came to you, I said, and you said that she didn't even have that conversation with him. So something fell through the cracks, and we bore the brunt of it, trying to tell her, well, look, you can't do it this way. And so hopefully that'll be resolved this time around. But I mean,
yeah, I'm sure it will be.
Maureen is great, but I've seen over the years where things sort of fall through the cracks as people, one person's supposed to do it or didn't do it, and so.
My
It's not fair to her either.
My
Correct.
expectation,
Absolutely.
my expectation is that she's not gonna be like the typical highway superintendent. That she's not gonna be out 40 hours a week working with the gentlemen that are down there. My expectation is, and we need to clarify as a board, as well as with Lindsay, my expectation is she's gonna continue to paperwork. She's gonna put a few hours a week into managing the crew.
Yeah.
But not necessarily overseeing them on an
Minute to
hour
minute.
by hour
Yeah.
basis. And I've met with her twice this week, and we went over some stuff, and I gotta tell you, she's grasped every bit of it right away, right down to the point where there was about 2 yards of asphalt that was on the side of the road and had been there for at least a year. She noticed it when we were there the other day, and this morning when I went, it was gone. Like, so she is really cognizant of what's going on. She grasped the elevation, she grasped the ditching, and she met with her guys up there a couple times, and they did a great job. So I wanna say,
It's super. I think she just needs a mentor to sort of guide her through this, because this is a big,
Yeah.
big lift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
absolutely. I think everybody's cognizant of that, right? It's a very
We just
big
need some
shift.
time.
Yeah, so, but I think the difference is, right, and I'll be very frank about it, right? So, when we had experienced highway superintendents, we sometimes didn't give them enough guidance and left them way too much alone, right? And then we got a new person in and treated them the same way, and I think that honestly left them exposed to failure, right? And, no,
I
I'm
would-
not talking this last one, I'm talking about
Okay.
the one
Yeah.
before,
Okay.
okay? I'm talking about
I
when we
didn't realize
first,
that. Okay.
okay? Right? And I think we presumed some knowledge where it maybe didn't exist with with the one after the other Mr. Chafee, okay? And things went south, right? And then the last person we brought in, even with an attempt to give him the structure and the guidance, it just wasn't working out, right? So, I think we're in a position now where we're gonna try to give Lindsay the right support at the right time. The crew's gonna need to step up because they're not gonna have somebody necessarily with them every hour of the day, but they're gonna have somebody that they know is gonna swing by and check and make sure that what was supposed to happen happened, right?
So just one more point on that. We had our committee meeting yesterday at the highway, and some of the things she already had in order. She had the daily reports of what was happening in order. She had more paperwork in 3 days in order than we had in 4 months prior to her. So
Yep.
I think she's taken it serious and she's hit the ground running. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
And maybe
Yeah,
just
'cause she was
to-
at the meeting, the highway meeting, she was right on top of it.
yeah,
She was
Yep.
right on it.
yep,
She sounds like she knows what she's doing already, so,
yeah. She's a quick study. She's been a
Yeah.
quick study since the day she started, so.
yep.
And one of the things in talking with Lindsay, that maybe some of the other previous supers didn't have, the Highway Advisory Committee is there, is put in place to take care of, well, not take care of, but at least provide a
through-
venue to.
Talk through best approaches, best
Policies,
practices.
a lot of those high-level things that, I don't want to say she doesn't have to worry about, but now she has additional input from, let's be honest, very experienced people with tremendous amount of skills and experience in the highway field. So
Yeah, and-
I think that's a big plus for Lindsay.
And they don't always agree on every single piece of approach. However, it at least means that she gets the voice of several different types of experience and can try to, find her own voice and make the call on if we've got two hypothetically good approaches, pick the one that seems to make sense based on what she knows about the crew and what she knows about, their own scenario and how they're currently situated, so.
Plus you got the foreman, he's out in the field with the others,
Exactly.
so.
Exactly, so it's not like it's not like there's not some form of, at least, informal direction and leadership available there as well, so.
Anything's better than what we had, I can tell you
Well,
that.
it's something, we'll see. I'm excited, actually. What's funny is I had actually proposed doing this before we hired the last super, and,
Yeah, I
and,
spoke to you before I was a selectman, and we, it
Yeah.
seemed,
Yeah.
though it was not typical, but
Yeah,
I
I
thought it
mean,
would work then,
so-
but I think she kind of chickened out in a way that she
so.
was
so-
afraid of,
So let me put it this way, I've been employed for 32 years. There was only 7 of them that I wasn't a direct supervisor, right? And when I took the step back into individual contributor, I was like, life is gonna be so much better not managing people. And what I discovered is the only thing harder than managing people is watching other people do a shitty job managing people. So I think, okay, so I think what Lindsay ran into was the only thing harder than trying to run the highway department was watching somebody else not do a
Yeah,
great
that's a very
job.
good point.
So, sorry, I probably shouldn't have shared that one with the camera, but that's all I can say about that. At least it's from the heart, so.
Jacob, do you have the editing key just in case?
You might have to bleep that in future versions. Thank you. So, anyway, it's 7:30, so we can actually hear from the folks who are number 2 on the agenda. Come on up.
Thank you to the board for your time this evening. Thank you for Karen for working with me logistically to get onto the agenda. This is a required public hearing for the town's fiscal year 2021 Community Development Block Grant Program. My name is Joe Ferguson. I'm with the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. CMRPC is our acronym. We use that quite a bit. I'm new to the organization in the past year, so I met Mr. Chafee probably this past July, about a year ago, when we started the Green Street project, which is what I'm going to speak about tonight. So the Community Development Block Grant Program, also known as CDBG, a very old federal program enacted in 1974. So this is federal funding which comes through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. In the Massachusetts state program, small towns such as Brookfield have to compete for funds. They have to submit applications.
Can
Go
we
ahead.
hold just for a second?
Sure.
I realized procedurally I messed up, okay? So I'd like to open the public hearing associated with the FY 2021 CDBG performance hearing on September 19th, 2024. Please
Thank you.
continue.
Thank you, Ms. Coughlin.
All right, sorry about that.
So as I just described, this is a federal funded program through the through HUD, Housing and Urban Development. For the Massachusetts state program, small towns such as Brookfield and your surrounding neighbors have to compete for funds on an annual basis. So some larger cities, the Bostons, the Lawrences, the Lowells, they get an automatic fund of CDBG funds every year. So again, small towns have to compete. And in 2021, or prior to 2021, with assistance of my organization, the organization I work for, CMRPC, the town received a grant from this program, which is administered through the through the Department of Housing and Community Development, which has since changed its name, and that's now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities under the new administration. The total value of the grant was $800,000, which include direct project costs, which I'll get to, and then project management and grant administration. And by the way, that was the maximum award available that year, so Brookfield got the maximum award. So the purpose of this public hearing, number one, simple answer, it's a simple requirement of the state's program. Basically a requirement to hold it during the open grant period. And then number two is to provide information on the status of the grant and to allow for public comments and questions. But in addition to tonight's hearing, there have been a few opportunities for public involvement in this project, including past meetings of the town's Community Development Advisory Committee. There was a public hearing that took place back in August 2021 where the select board voted to submit the application to the program. And then there was also, we held a pre-construction meeting with residents at the project site, and this year's project was Green Street. So the Green Street project involved both design and construction, paid for by CDBG. So we procured an engineer. Designs were completed along with bid-ready specifications to replace the existing undersized and deteriorated subsurface utilities on Green Street, and at the finish to improve the road surface. A contractor was procured in June 2023. We had our on-street meeting with residents in August 2023, just prior to the start of construction. Subsurface improvements included the installation of an 8-inch water main, a new 12-inch drainage main, water services, and hydrants. Improvements to the road surface included interim trench patching during construction and over the winter season, followed by reclamation, grading, and compacting of the existing asphalt road, followed by installation of new asphalt road surface and edge berms. The construction phase was completed just this past June, and this grant is on schedule the programmatic grant is scheduled to close out on September 30th, so a few days from now. The Green Street project was initially identified back in 2019 through review of existing town plans, discussion with town public works staff, and as well as the meetings of the Community Development Advisory Committee. And the focus was really to improve residential neighborhoods with aging infrastructure that are close to town center, and Green Street is one of those. I'd like to acknowledge and offer thanks to the residents of the Green Street area for their patience and endurance throughout the construction process. I'd also like to thank the Select Board, the Town Administrator, and the staff and departments who I coordinated with and who CMRPC coordinated with, very helpful throughout the process. With that, that concludes the public hearing on the town's FY 2021 grant. I'm happy to take questions or comments, and I should note that you can also send me written comments, or written comments can be mailed to the Select Board by September 30th.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So, do you happen to know, or do we have something in the hopper? Because I know, oh shoot, it was almost a year ago that we went through the list of like our, let's call it our CDBG punch list, like
Your
the
target areas.
prioritized, our target areas and our projects. Do you know, are we part of anything that's getting written this year for
That's a good
next-
question. So the next round, before I answer that on the scheduling, you have another grant that is just
Open.
ramping up
Right,
currently
right. I do
in
know
the
that.
design phase,
Yep.
Kimball Street. I would like to talk to Ron and others, and if Lindsay as well, about, Dennis has also been helpful in kind of targeting neighborhoods. But yes, you are eligible for the FY '25 program. We
Right.
are aware that those applications are due mid-April 2025,
Okay.
so probably in about a month is time to start talking
Start,
about
yeah,
that.
I knew it's getting close to that season, that's what I
So,
was asking.
yeah.
Because usually when we're closing one, if we're genuinely closing it, that means it's time to apply for the next
That-
one, because
You're absolutely correct. And then we have one in the middle too,
Right,
which is Kimball
exactly.
Street. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll be, probably in about a month or next month, October, we'll be making contact with the town. We've got some ideas based on our experience.
Yep.
And I have to say that CMRPC, I'm fairly new to the organization, but
Right.
they've been working with you all for a number of years.
Yeah, and we've
Chris
had.
Dunphy,
and we-
Andrew
and we-
Lowe.
And we've had a very stable CDBG advisory committee, and they're like folks that are part of the 13 same people that do everything in town, so they pretty much know the community's
Yeah,
needs.
I'm
pretty well.
interested in meeting with them if the town is interested in kind of refreshing or reformalizing that Community Development Advisory Committee.
Yep.
That's such a help for these.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that, and if, as much as we can get the original members, if we can, that would be great, because they've done a phenomenal job whenever they've gotten together to do it.
I was just talking with Mary Lou this morning with regards to
It's-
reconstituting that group.
It's the one thing she doesn't complain about being on, because she feels like it gets something done for the town, so.
Did you expend the 800,000?
We did, correct.
Good.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Actually, I think we're $212 under
Under.
budget.
Even better.
Close, but
Close.
not going over. How close can you get to that number without going over? That's
Thank
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, also with regards to the Kimball Street that was just referred to, we will be having an informational on-site meeting with Weston and.
Weston and Sampson, they're the engineer that was procured.
Correct, yeah, because there is some talk, granted very preliminary talk, about potential for one-way street and things along those lines. So these, needless to say, once you start to introduce traffic pattern changes, that's the type of thing
Starts
we're
to get
going to want to make sure that everyone
Signs
is
up
aware
for.
of and is involved in the discussion. So we will be putting that information for that session on the website and through Facebook and other social media, probably as soon as Monday.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay. What's next on the agenda? We've got appointment Memorial Day Committee of Damian Sargent. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Damian Sargent to the Memorial Day Committee.
Second, all in favor?
How long do we want to appoint that for? Is that
So
one,
that,
two, or
it's,
three
it
year?
says June 30, 2025.
And then
Okay.
we reappoint at the end of the year for a longer term.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think this is
Perfect.
all like to the end. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
middle of the
okay.
year. And then we've got, so all
So
in
we'll take
favor?
a vote, all in favor, aye.
Aye. And then can I get a motion to appoint Kathleen Landry to election worker for the same period?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Kathleen Landry as an election worker.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we received the Highway Advisory Committee meeting minutes from 8:28 and 9:11. So we just acknowledge that we don't really need to, and we discussed some of that content already in the context of Lindsay's appointment, so. And then can I get a motion to approve the Select Board meeting minutes for 6:20, 7:18, and 8:08?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 8 is items not reasonably anticipated by the chair, which is me today, and I got nothing. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.